Hello and welcome to the Avid Media Composer tutorial part 8. In this part of the tutorial I basically just want to look at general housekeeping in when editing drama and fiction, and how to keep your bins basically relatively tidy and accessible for yourself and for other editors, and for when you have producers and directors wanting to sit on the edit. Just having clean bins set up nicely is a good way forward. I also want to look at just how to do an audio sync to video. So that's what we'll be covering today in this tutorial. So one thing I generally prefer to do when I'm setting up, when I'm editing drama and fiction is as your edits evolve and as your timelines get more complicated, and obviously with any fiction and drama there's always a lot of audio and video assets, so you've got lots of external sound, loads of slates and takes, and obviously loads of subclips as they get bigger and bigger. One good thing to bear in mind is you need to obviously just think a little bit forward ahead, and just kind of basically just bear in mind, have a system in your master project bin where you want things to go. So the way I generally do it is I create a few bins and label and create folders to contain them in. So as you can see, we have an assets folder up here. If we toggle that, we have our original video and then our original audio rushes, which are here and here. Very useful. I know where to find them when I need them. And obviously, like I showed in previous tutorials, when you create subclips, have them live in a different folder as well, away from your main media, because these are the ones you'll probably be using when you're editing on the timeline, preferably. That shouldn't be there, but if we want, and obviously when we come on to syncing, I've actually created a very specific folder called sync, so our sync bin, but we'll move on to that in a minute. Another useful thing is to keep sound separate as well, so separating any external sound you might have to grab that isn't from the location shoot itself. So Foley sound is sound created from post-production, so it's post-production sound, whether you've recorded it independently of principal photography or you've got it online and downloaded it and put it in that way. And then wild tracks are just ambient noises, so that can be field recorded material done during principal photography, or sourced again online or elsewhere from various places like royalty-free libraries. And obviously keep your music separate as well, have that in a different bin. And cuts, very important. I like to have a sequences bin within my cuts folder. So if you have a look at that, I like to keep a history record of all my sequences. And the reasoning behind this is, say for instance I have a week to cut, say, a project, and I say I'm going to devote, say, all 5 days to my edit. Now what I generally do personally is each day I start a new edit, I duplicate my old sequence. So in this case I'm on my second day, I'm on my third day now. I want to create a third duplication of my timeline here. So to do that, you want to click on your second cut, go to edit and go to duplicate. You can click the ~D, I think, button to duplicate. The shortcut's there. I think it's Control-D on a PC. So if we do that, we duplicate our timeline. So I want to create a third cut from there. There's a good reason for doing this. If you do it in each editing session you start, basically you'll then, by the end of, say, the 5 days, you'll have 5 different cuts. You'll basically get an evolution of every cut will be an evolution of the one before. So that's very useful if you have producers and directors sitting in on the edit and they want to view previous cuts of the film. So be very careful. It's very important to keep all the cuts you do previously. So for instance, don't just start the next day and go back to your first cut and then make edits directly to that, because then you'll no longer have all the history of what you did previously to that. So it's always good to get into the habit of creating new cuts for every editing session you get involved in. So at least you can always backtrack if something goes wrong, or if there was something better in a previous edit and you want to drag it forward. So very important to bear in mind.